Hey everyone, thank you for Andrew. Thank you for coming out to New York City Ruby meetup. Today I'm really happy to have Cody Norman here. Give a talk about Action Mailbox. You know, honestly, before seeing Cody's talk, I never even knew there was an Action Mailbox, and I was like, oh man, this is probably something really cool to have. And I'm even honestly, I didn't have much time to dig into a bit, but I kind of get the impression it's kind of like another controller where you can do mailbox, where you interface with email. But that's my impression. But and I kind of see Cody nodding, so I think I'm on the right track, and I'm not totally crazy or, ChatGPT didn't lie to me. And but yeah, I got this talk. I'm like, man, I'd love to know what else is going on in the Rails world other than just like whatever's going on in Rails from DHH and his announcements in Rails world. But actually, Mailbox sounds really useful. I think email is like still a really, really powerful platform for communicating with people. So uh, thank you for joining us, Cody. And yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, Andrew, you mentioned a few important things. I think even after giving the talk at RailsConf, I had people come up to me and say that I thought this was about Action Mailer. I thought it was about sending emails. I didn't even know that this was a thing where you could field all these inbound emails in your Rails app. And I believe it's been around since Rails 6, I believe. So it's been out there. I don't have any type of definite confirmation, but I believe that that's related to, or maybe was extracted from Hey and some of the work that Basecamp was doing with that. So it makes me feel very confident and comfortable with being able to scale and kind of handle this stuff. And the other thing that you mentioned is it's a super flexible and great platform. All right. So can everyone see okay? Everything presented cool? All right, great.
Yeah.
So a little bit about me. My name is Cody Norman. I'm a independent Ruby on Rails consultant and live in a small mountain town in Colorado. Another thing about me, I really love email. And I realize that may sound a little bit odd, but I believe email is a powerful and flexible way for your users to interact with your application, allowing users to be able to complete tasks through email. It's basically like having a webhook that anyone in the world can submit to without needing a key. But as in most things in life, sometimes relationships can be complicated. So, as I stand here speaking to you all lovely folks today, I'm getting buried deeper and deeper and deeper in emails. Despite their usefulness, there are a lot of emails fighting for attention in your inbox. It's very easy to feel overwhelmed. So maybe a better way to put this would be I'm in love with the idea of email. So today I'm going to cover some of the high points of Action Mailbox. We're going to talk about what exactly it is. We're going to look at some practical use cases that you may not have thought about using with email. We're going to show how we can send inbound emails to your application, both in production and your development environment. We're going to walk through how the emails are processed and detail how it is deployed and ran on production. So a little bit of background first. What exactly is it? This is directly from the Rails guides, and they describe it as Action Mailbox will route these incoming emails to controller-like mailboxes for processing in Rails. Rails will then create an inbound email object that will later be processed with active job and automatically cleaned up and deleted once everything is completed. So this offers us a really familiar, intuitive, and powerful way to parse these emails. So first, like Andrew mentioned earlier, a lot of people don't really know that this is even a thing. And if they do, they may have written it off a little bit as thinking, well, I don't really send email. We don't need that. I don't know why I need to send email. So it's something that can be dismissed pretty quickly. So I put together a handful of pretty simple examples. Most of these could, probably be their own standalone application. And all of these are contained within a single mailbox, and kind of illustrate some of the power and flexibility of some of the things that you can accomplish with Action Mailbox. So our first example, this is how you might do something like creating a new record. In this specific example, it's called legacy document with the information from an inbound email, which would create an imported document attachment from the attached PDF. So this is something that I extracted from some real world use cases that I ran into. I had a lot of people who may not be considered the most computer savvy, were having a lot of issues trying to upload large PDFs through the form. Uh, we ended up with a interesting solution of just allowing them to email in the PDF as an attachment. With Action Mailbox, we're able to grab that attachment, parse it out, and create an active storage record and save it. So this also offered kind of a surprise benefit of allowing us to process the PDF in the background since ActiveJob already runs the inbound emails to process. We didn't have to worry about timeouts or issues with very, very large uploads and connectivity that the user may be having. And here we have an example of something that would be a lightweight email to SMS service. For this example, you would include the number you would like to send a message to in the subject of the email, and the message you would like to have sent in the body, and that's it. Just like that, we have what could easily be considered a nice, fun standalone service contained in a single method within our single inbox here. With Action Mailbox, we can create our very own AI wrapper application and just a handful of lines of Ruby. So this is a basic example of sending an inbound email, parsing and sending the body of the email to the OpenAI API endpoint, and then replying back with an email to from or send back an email from the original sender with the AI response. So these are a few examples of some of the diverse and targeted functionality that we can include with Action Mailbox. So taking a higher look at how everything works, you may be asking what exactly happens when I send an inbound email. So here is an overall flow of what generally happens whenever you send an inbound email to your inbound server. In this example, the yellow represents your email service. The Rails docs will refer to that as an ingress, but I feel most people have a better idea or a better understanding of what an email service is. So I will be using those interchangeably. And the red section here represents where our Rails application picks up the process. And I'll be going through each one of these steps in a little more detail, showing how everything works in under the hood. So to start things out, you would send an inbound email. Your email service provider will receive it, they process it, and then will send some type of data payload. Each provider is a little bit different to what's basically a webhook endpoint that is going to save the email and later process it. And this section here, this is not necessarily Rails specific. This would be controlled by your MX settings for your DNS host. So after that, our email service provider will send an inbound webhook request to the Rails app. Um, Again, each one is a little bit different, but the main idea is it's going to send the raw email data as a webhook format to the Rails app. And how it authenticates and hits the specific ingress controller that it needs is we point it to a specific URL that you'll see here at the bottom. It's using a basic auth in the URL structure. And this is going to point to our specific webhook endpoint to field these postmark replies. Rails comes with a handful of included options. Each one is a little bit different to handle how the provider will send the information, but they all basically route to something like action mailbox slash postmark or slash provider slash inbound emails. So now that we have things picking up with the Rails app, let's look at how we can add some action mailbox inboxes to our Rails application. Like any good Rails tool, we have some very handy and convenient generators. So we just need to run our install task. This will add action mailbox as well as active controller. More on that in a bit. And then we migrate our changes. So looking into a little more detail around what's created, if you look a little closer here, you'll see that we're also included active storage. Uh, I've found that this tends to catch a lot of people off guard because they don't really equate attachments with emails, at least not as something that's required by default. And the reason being is when our inbound emails are created, the raw email data is saved as an active storage attachment to later be processed. So this gives us a great source of truth to either recreate the email, resend it, or try to send it to our local environment by the raw email source. The other thing that is added is the inbound email object. This is the real bread and butter of the Action Mailbox framework. So this is the object that Rails is going to create from the inbound email that the email service provider sends over and will later be processed by active job. The last thing that's added after running our generators is an application mailbox. So this basically works very similar to how your routes would work in your normal application. It's going to receive a request, and then it's going to route it to a specific inbox. This comment here comes included kind of as a way to get you started. But the basic format is it is going to try to match whatever value you have in the to address for the inbound email. And if it finds a match, we'll send it directly over to that mailbox. So to get started, we also have a handy generator command. So we would just run bin rails generate mailbox and then the name of the mailbox that we would like to generate. So this will add our new mailbox and it includes a single method called process. This is the code that's going to be executed whenever the inbound email is sent to your mailbox to be processed. So that's it. If I was a bit bolder, this is something I could have done live and whipped up a working inbound email inbox here. So in true fashion, true Rails fashion, it really gives you the tools to generate everything you need to start working on the business logic and the actual functionality your application needs instead of tons and tons of setup and choices. And again, after we receive the inbound email data, we create this new action mailbox inbound email record. which will enqueue the job to later be routed to a specific mailbox and processed. And this is where a lot of the magic happens. This is the entire inbound email class represented on a single slide. I think that's great that something that as complicated and maybe opaque as email can be represented pretty well here in just a handful of very readable methods. So we're going to go through some of these in a little more detail. So to start out, we have three different concerns being included here. The first one is incineratable. This is going to ensure that your inbound emails are automatically scheduled for deletion after they are successfully processed. So because we're storing the inbound emails as active storage attachments initially, once this is processed, we automatically will delete these after 30 days. That number can be configured, but this is a great way to automatically make sure your S3 bucket is not getting overwhelmed with tons and tons of emails. Message ID is to ensure that each inbound email is going to have a unique identifier to identify that individual email in the same way that the email data is going to have something pretty similar in its header. And routable is what is going to control the actual routing of the email to a specific mailbox once Active Job picks everything up to begin processing. And raw email is our active storage attachment that was created from the raw email data that was sent by the email service provider. So when we create a new inbound email object, the raw source of the email will be saved as this attached raw email to whatever service we have specified here. This is also a great benefit here. If you look through the actual source code, they allow you to specify a separate storage service to maybe have everything different than maybe your image hosting or something else that you may need optimized for images or some type of different medium besides emails. And here's some examples of some of the methods and how you might use them that are defined in that inbound email class. So the raw email method returns the active storage attachment. Source will actually download that active storage email attachment and convert it to a string if it's not already downloaded. And the mail method returns a mail message object. So this is your standard Ruby mail object. So we have all of the niceties that Ruby mail offers us by being able to pull out things like senders, CCs, anything related to the email in a nice Ruby fashion. So now we have some more background on the Action Mailbox inbound email and how it's created. Let's look at how the inbound email will be routed for processing. So again, the application mailbox acts a lot like our post office for the Action Mailbox app. It's going to receive everything and then sort it, send it out to its correct destination, hopefully. So it works the same way as your routes file does. So it will go from top to bottom, and as soon as it finds a match, it will return. So this is a great way of maybe having something like a catch-all mailbox at the very end of your application mailbox to maybe save or store any inbound email that may not have been routed. It also gives you easy ways to specify different conditions where maybe you would like to send it to one first if it meets those conditions. One other nicety I really like to have is the all option here. So typically, especially when I'm first starting out and I just want to confirm things are working, I can pass this handy all method to a specific mailbox. So anytime the Rails app will receive an inbound email, it will automatically route it to the support mailbox. This is a great way of ruling out any other potential issues that you may have with routing or processing the email to immediately get to processing it and the real business logic of your task. So after we've finally routed the email, now is when we finally begin to process it. So our processing is going to take place here in the mailbox. This is where all of your magic or business logic is going to take place. All of that is going to happen within the process method. It also offers some great benefits that are very similar to something like Active Job with some lifecycle hooks like before processing and some mail specific hooks and methods like bounce with. So taking a look at one of the examples earlier, when an inbound email is sent to the mailbox, our process method will be called. If the inbound email is successfully processed, the status is updated and it will be marked for deletion. If it's not successfully processed, it will be updated to the failed status, which I don't believe automatically will reprocess it. You can call reprocess with the bang method on that email record manually if you do need to reprocess it. And so back to the lifecycle methods. Here's an example of a pretty common task I find myself using where we use both the bounce with method I mentioned earlier and a before processing hook. So this is something where we're going to check to make sure that we have a valid user or recipient before processing. If we're not able to find this record, I can mark the message as bounced and notify the sender that the message has bounced. So this is a great way to limit it, especially when you start adding in functionality that just kind of kicks off whenever it receives an inbound email. This is a great way to lock that down a little bit and confirm that whoever is sending the email maps to a user or some type of service you're trying to connect them to. And what good is a toy without batteries? So before you can start wielding the great power of Action Mailbox, you're going to need to deploy it somewhere. And luckily, Rails provides some great default options right out of the box. There are also some third-party gems to support other services like Amazon SES, but these are the main ones that are available just by passing the symbol of the service you would like to use. A few pitfalls to keep in mind when you are deploying to production. One issue I find myself running into a lot is active storage, pretty much overall. Um, Many times your active storage current URLs are set somewhere along the lines in your application controller. Um, when we're processing things through the context of a background job, a lot of times that may not be set. Uh, the other thing that I find a lot of people run into is using something like the disk service to set up for active storage to process these inbound emails. That may work on something like a VPS server, like DigitalOcean, where you have kind of everything in the same box. But if you're using something like Heroku or Render, where your site process is running in one worker, your web process is running in another, it's not going to be able to find the images that you're referencing, or excuse me, it's not going to be able to find the attachments that you're referencing. And those attachments are the inbound emails that Rails saved and they're trying to process. That seems to be like the number one thing that's burnt most other people, including myself, many times for trying to figure out what's going on. Email's hard enough to work with, but this was a big one. So doing something like setting up S3 Wasabi, some type of third-party storage service right from the get-go will make your life much easier. Also, if you're doing things like processing or creating new active storage attachments, you may have to set the current URL whenever that job is being processed. So that's another thing I ran into a lot. The third thing, um, plan on right from the get-go, if at all possible, to route these inbound emails through some type of subdomain. It can save a ton of headaches, can also prevent you from breaking your existing company's MX setup. You can ask me how I know about that one. Uh, for trying to get everything configured to respond to these inbound emails. So that would be something like support at inbound.yourapp.com. There are a number of ways to, route or kind of deal with this, either, the front or um, the end part of the address, but uh, routing everything through a subdomain and not having most of your routing logic in the application mailbox dependent on that subdomain will make it much, much easier to move things and set up multiple environments like staging or any type of demo thing where you would like to have live emails, but also don't want to break your current company's mail setup. So this is one of my favorite Ruby related quotes. And initially, we went over some of the practical examples, and I really wanted to take some time and try to think of some of the goofiest, impractical, and kind of fun examples of things that I might be able to trigger with an inbound email. So hopefully this will spark some creativity for you. And I should warn you, these are, pretty goofy. You may not want to try these at home, but the idea is to show you some of the kind of out there things to maybe spark your own interest about what you may be able to include into your application. So our first one, CatFax on demand. We could set up a simple mailbox, something like catfax at inbound.yoursite.com with basically any message and receive our very own custom catfax returned right to our email. So again, we have a single process method here. This is going to send out a mailer from whoever sent the inbound email, and it's going to include our catfact that is returned from our catfact.ninja API request that we send out. So this is a great simple service where it may not be super valuable, but we are sending something in theory that could be valuable back to the user without requiring them to sign up. And we have a reasonable belief that they just gave us a valid email because we received it. So this is a great way to cut little steps out of the process and create value with very little code and let users kind of stay where they're most comfortable. Okay, so I don't know if you all have ever emailed yourself a reminder to do things. I think I was, kind of initially making a joke about being so busy at RailsConf. I was just, floating my own email with things to do later. So I thought maybe I could email myself something uh, that would create a postcard to actually send me a piece of physical mail whenever I got back as a reminder. So for something like this, you could just do reminders at inbound.yoursite.com with the body of the reminder that you would like to include. So this would be an example of how we would accomplish something like this. This is using the lob postcards API. So we receive our inbound message. If you look right towards the bottom in the merge variables, that is the mail body. So we're calling decoded on it to try to get the cleanest version of the text as possible. And we're sending this off to the lob API. So Now, when I shoot myself a quick email saying, "Hey, you should do that thing," I will receive this lovely custom-made postcard in my mailbox, thus turning email into physical mail. So rounding things out, we have what I think is definitely the weirdest and the most impractical example of them all. So I discovered the remote start and monitoring device I have on my truck has some open API endpoints and started to wondering if I could integrate those with email somehow. So for this example, this would be a truck mailbox that would allow for sending something like truck or broom at yoursite.com. Have it then make a request to the remote start API and fire up my truck. So I think this is a great example of one of those problems where developers are more concerned about whether we can do something instead of whether we should do something. Uh, I think this is a perfect example of this. I took a lot of work to get working, but was very happy to get it going. And it's a bit, obfuscated and shortened here, but all in all, it's really just taking a few things whenever this inbox or mailbox receives an inbound email, send out a request to the truck API. And this is really fun and all, but it's something that just can't quite be conveyed in a single slide. So let's take a look at how it came out here, and hopefully the sound will play on it. Here we have my 2006 Toyota Tacoma outfitted with an aftermarket remote start. I'm going to send an inbound email to our truck mailbox, and with any luck, be able to start the truck. You may have noticed there's no keys in the ignition here. I'm going to try to send an inbound email to the truck mailbox. Will probably take a couple minutes for it to complete process, but if everything goes well, we should be able to start the truck here. So let's see. Email sent. Now we wait. Make sure it's in. And that, my friends, is the weirdest thing that I've done with inbound email and why I love Action Mailbox. So that it's hard to follow anything with that. So that was one of the most fun I've had working with inbound email. It's not something that you would probably ever need or probably ever should do, but I think it's a great example of just showing the flexibility and power of a channel that pretty much everyone that knows how to use your application is going to know how to use email. So this allows you to add features and additional functionality to your app without even requiring your users to access it. So again, I just want to say thanks to everyone for having me out today. This is something I've had a lot of fun with speaking with, and hopefully you all picked up some things, learned a little more about what Action Mailbox is, and maybe had a few takeaways for ways you can add it into your app. All right, yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, oh, sorry, I was people can unmute themselves, ask questions, and also turn on their video and stuff. I just wanted to make sure during your talk it was, nice and smooth and
Yeah, yeah,
uninterrupted.
no worries. Very much appreciated.
So yeah. Or sorry, this is question time, right? You're showing on your show and tell.
Yeah, yeah, I can do Q&A or kick around ideas of things you might want to try to get going with email. So yeah, whatever you would like to hear.
Yeah, I can do just a question. Um, I was just curious. First, thank you. That was great. one of the things you mentioned about, I think, when it came to processing inbound email, when it comes to like failures, what was that experience like? I don't know if maybe you can share a little bit about, what does that look like essentially? Like, are you doing something manual? Are you involving like something like Sidekick to kind of pick up this job again? If you can talk maybe a little bit. I was just kind of curious. I know you mentioned that, and I think you had said that it wasn't something that you believe that was handled automatically. So that kind of made me think, well, it's a manual process. Like, is there some way that you have like a certain set of retries, et cetera? So I just wanted to see what you could share about how you would handle failures.
Right. And I believe the reason is because I think the intent is whenever the mailbox gets processed, it's going to do something, maybe send out an email or something like that. So I think that's the reason for automatically marking it as failed without trying to reprocess it and, maybe getting your queue hung or whatever. So I think that's, kind of a nice protection added there. As far as reproducing it, there are a couple of different ways I normally approach it. The first way is what I think would be the easiest. One of the great things about how Action Mailbox is set up and with storing the raw email data as an active storage attachment, that allows me to actually pull that record in the Rails console. I can view the raw source of the email, and there is a tool I didn't have a chance to show it in this slides, but um, with Action Mailbox, there is it's called the Rails conductor, I believe. And it has two different forms for you to simulate sending inbound emails to your application. The second one is view source. That's basically you would copy the text. So you would grab the inbound email object in your Rails console and then call the raw data method on it. That returns a string of all your raw data. You can paste that in your in the source section for the Rails conductor and basically simulate sending all the really, really specific mail things that were in that email to your local environment. Uh, since everything follows I forget the specific email spec, headers have to be formatted a certain way. Everything kind of has to be done, within certain criteria. So that's a great way to get pretty close to reproducing that issue locally. And then once you figure it out, maybe make your changes to your mailbox, you can grab the inbound email object in the console again, and then call, I think you would update the status to pending and then call process with a bang on it to manually reprocess it.
Thank you.
The other way, before we get to Richard's question, because it's a webhook, it's kind of a roundabout process, but I have also started up an ngrok instance and giving Postmark my ngrok URL for like my production mailer and just send these live emails locally to kind of figure out these weird things that, specific providers may be doing in their processing. Cool. I think Richard had a question. Oh, I don't think I can hear you.
What about processing spam or filtering spam?
Um, so that's something, I guess the best way that you would handle it would be in some type of before processing hook. For me, mostly it's about I'm trying to see if the sender of this email, whatever email they send it from, matches to a user record in your database. That's pretty much the easiest way. Some of these more open ones, like the cat facts, where if you receive an email, you reply back with an email. More or less just kind of doubles the amount of spam because when you do get like a SEO inbound email, I send them one back with a cat fact automated. So, it can be mitigated depending on how serious you think it is, but the before processing hook gives you lots of different ways to kind of Ruby your way out of an email spam problem. before actually trying to process it.
Have you come across any good gems that facilitate that sort of analysis or checking?
Um, no, I think some of the standard ones, like the Barracuda or like the other email scanners, I've heard people kind of do those, but I think, at least for me, a lot of the, kind of bad spam or maybe nefarious stuff kind of gets filtered out at the email service provider level before it gets sent as a webhook over to me. So they do a bit of processing and confirming and, all their different checks and verification. So they also give me a level of kind of security around that. If you really, really needed to, you could also go into the email headers to get more information on the DKIM verification, the SPIF verification, and any other type of data that you may want to verify the sender is, not spoofing or something like that.
Cool. Thanks.
Oh man, DKIM, SPF. Oh, that stuff is not fun, like at all. And Richard, that's why I'm kind of like, or Richard and I kind of talking about like, hey, let's migrate off of meetup.com. And I'm like, yeah, how are we gonna do emails? Because when we email people for to show up, like we have to set up a mail server, and like, how do we do that? That's just verifying stuff. And anyways, just coming back, and I just want to piggyback off of this security. This, I love the last one where you remote start your truck with an email. I guess endless possibilities, man, endless. So how do you? I guess you brought up this what a solution is like. Hey, make sure that the only person that's starting up the truck is kind of you. Is it make sure the from is from Cody, like no one else. I know I shouldn't be able to start up your truck, right? By
Right,
because I'm sure
right.
you're just emailing. So just in terms of just security, then what are some other ways to kind of handle security or, you want that hook to be there, right? The truck one, but you don't want it accessible to everyone. So what are your thoughts? Maybe ideas or solutions around that?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question because this kind of shows I mentioned this phrase earlier, but this shows how we could Ruby our way out of an email problem without having to deal with the email stuff. So again, it can kind of, it kind of depends on your specific needs. So for this case, for me to get my live email server sending to a live thing without having to confirm it and get all this stuff and record it, so I was on a time crunch. I just used ngrok to point it to my local environment and hoped it would work. That also gives me the option of inserting a debugger in there where I can catch the inbound request and maybe inspect something weird that's not getting saved that is causing the issue. And if I hit, Control C, that URL is blown away. So, having a temporary URL for these things to be routed to was also a nice thing. And then, I could just update the postmark settings for, the webhook URL back to normal once everything is working. Um, if you didn't want to do something like that, I think the easiest thing would be just, a simple array of email addresses, maybe in a initializer and say, hey, if it's not from one of these, then bounce or something. Don't even let them know that it bounced, like it's a valid mail server. So, that kind of depends on, if you feel like it's worth it or how you can go about that. But, that takes a complicated email problem into, hey, does this value included in this Ruby array? And that's a much easier way to kind of approach stuff that I feel like people are more comfortable with. Because it seems everyone's just like, I don't want to deal with email. I don't need that thing at all. It sucks. And it kind of does. But that's where the Ruby Mail Gem comes in and gives us, very handy, intuitive methods for, pulling out these things that we need.
Nice. Oh, I just want to bring up, you mentioned that you have a pro course that what is it? It's like a pre-sale. So does that mean you're still finishing it up?
Yes, it should be done. It'll probably be done mid-August or so. But I think everything is set for the outline. And I've been taking some of the feedback and questions that I've got from some of these talks that I've been giving, and trying to boil down like all these stuff that I feel like people are missing and maybe really interested in, or find something useful for in there. So hoping to have that out very soon. Doing video has been a new process for me, so it's been fun, but definitely different. But it is something about a topic where I really enjoy. I think it's a great, fun way to kind of, show personality and get really cheap stuff done. We had basically we walked through three different apps and three different screens that are all just a single mailbox. And this could all be in a single app that you have that's just, like a kitchen sink of weird mailbox stuff. I typically have one of these around for these talks so I could start, I could test stuff really easily. So, um, it's a great way to have these flexible things. And I think showing that to other people is like, oh, I never thought about that, but there's this thing I think we could use that for. And yeah, that seems to be the best part is hearing people come up to me afterwards, be like, I have this idea for an email thing now. Like, thank you. That's pretty cool. I didn't even know it was a thing. Or the person who's like, I thought this was about sending emails.
Right. You're just coming back to the way the internet is now too. Like email is a basic thing. Everyone kind of has email, and the other is like kind of uh, SMS, like text, right? And those
Right.
are um, and kind of this opens up a whole new set of things, right? Where you can build an application out on them, right?
Pretty much. And like I was mentioning earlier, we recently got broadband, but prior to this, we were on line of sight internet. So maybe I don't need to download many megabytes of JavaScript if I just need to do a simple thing where email basically lets you leverage, what's kind of a built-in progressive web app. If they're offline, it'll be, sent in the drafts whenever they get reconnected, automatically sent out. So it leverages a lot of great technologies and things that are already there that people know how to use, and lets you focus on, what's the actual problem at hand instead of, just going out and writing software for software's sake.
Well, you can still load up a JavaScript in your email, like endless amounts of JavaScript too. Don't worry, dude. There's a way to do that.
That's true. Very true.
And Tailwind CSS and all that stuff, man. The HTML rich email. Oh, wait, no, you don't even. We haven't started down that rabbit hole of like just how different email clients render HTML mail, right? Like,
There's very much a reason why people paid lots of money to Litmus every month to know what it looks like.
anyways,
Are you familiar with anybody who's made like a service, like a web client out of Ruby, using Action Mailbox?
I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure Hey from
Right.
Basecamp. I My suspicion is that's where it was extracted from, typical Basecamp style. So it's very solid, although sparse because the way it's set up, you don't really need too much, so it's not very intrusive. It's easy to get in, but the fact that it is Rails core makes me feel very comfortable using it. That it's going to be maintained and addressed and able to scale for a long time.
It's the service you're talking about is litmus.com. You know what that?
Well, Litmus was for testing the email, how your emails view. For the email or the email client, it would be hey.com
No, you just
or
right. I just meant I was going back in time. I just
gotcha.
wanted to get the link correct. Let's share it with the group.
Yeah, I think it's been a while since I've had to do the email stuff, but that was the last one that I used. And yeah, it was great for like, hey, our biggest advertiser uses this old version of Outlook, and the ad has to look good on his computer, even though he's 1% of the audience. So yeah, that lets you do some of those kind of hard or obscure clients that you may run into.
Are your slides are you gonna make your slides available? I know we're recording this and people can watch the video and look at the slides, but
I'll definitely put these somewhere. This is pretty similar to the version I gave at RailsConf. Those are online as well. But yeah, I will post these somewhere and maybe I'm not sure how I would get it out. But
But
uh
you can share it with me, and I'll make sure it
okay,
happens.
cool, perfect. Yeah,
Send me an email.
it'll be somewhere on Speaker Deck, and it's kind of fun now because after giving it a few times and having feedback,
Make
like
an
you can kind of
email.
see it. Yeah,
Make
you can
an
see it
email
like
address.
evolving.
If you want if you want the slides, email at Cody Norman. Slides at Cody Norman.
I have thought about that. I haven't got around to it yet, but um once the course is launched or something along those lines, I love the idea of having like a scavenger hunt with like if you deciphered the correct email address, whoever sends the first email gets, coupon code responded back, and it's limited to one. After that, it kind of self-destruct. But um, those are, examples of like really simple things that you can, build into something like email without, having to do all of this kind of extra setup that most people you'll probably expect is required.
Hmm.
We have a comment in the chat from Nitty. It says, "How have you come across any open source project using Action Mailbox?"
Um, I can't think of any right now. The I guess the last kind of large Ruby open source projects I probably looked at, uh, it's probably Exorcism and maybe some of the Ruby for Good stuff. Um, so I don't know if there's other ones out there, but I'm not sure if there are any, pretty large open source projects that are kind of leveraging the Action Mailbox stuff.
Okay, thank you.
would you like to I don't it was such an awesome talk. I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any interest in like a discount code for the people attending today for your course? It
Yeah,
looks like an
yeah.
awesome course, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't have a chance to put that together because if you notice
Hold on. We're recording, so we can put it in the chat, so
Yeah,
only people
we
in
can
the
do
chat
it
can
later.
see it
yeah,
Yeah.
there we do.
on YouTube.
But yeah, I recently posted a video on making composite QR codes. So like uploading a logo and a URL and then creating a QR code with the logo embedded in it. And I got distracted, and that's where I spent my time. I made the QR code with the NYCRB pizza logo,
That's
and
so
instead
cool.
of creating something useful. But yeah, I thought that was a fun touch, and uh, just barely got the postcard done in time too. But yes, I can definitely have that going, and we'll hope to have it done. August, I think everything is still on track for that. The example application may go a little bit long just because I keep redoing it. Every time I think I'm done, I'm like, well, could improve this. So just refining that a little bit. But I think after that, yeah, everything should be set and without out in the next month or two.
Thank you. That would be awesome. I would pay full price for your course. It looks fantastic, man. So
Thank you. Well, I think I'm very glad to hear that. And the idea is showing as many examples as possible to kind of spark people's interest or see it and be like, hey, that's pretty close to this thing I need to do. As a consultant, if I see something like that could save me like 2 or 3 hours. It's like, yeah, that's absolutely worth it, just for this one thing. So hopefully people find it valuable, but try to put a lot of kind of cool and diverse things that you would actually use somewhere in the application, and maybe sell it to your tech lead to see if you could get it pulled into the next sprint.
I was gonna say, imagine working on a project for 2 or 3 months and then seeing Action Mailbox and like, oh my God, we could have done the whole app just
I'm literally on a project that's like that. And it's a giant rat's nest of postmark webhook events and stuff like that, which works. And there are things out there, but being the Rails way, it gives you a lot of flexibility to kind of tinker or reprocess things if you need to, but also getting out of your way to get to the stuff that you really care about right at the beginning.
Cool. Oh, all right. So I'll stop the video now.